Hello and welcome to another episode of Crypto Time. My name is James Coughlan. I'm joined today with my usual co-host, Antonio Shillingford. How are you today, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. There's a lot been going on recently, so I guess this is going to be a good little episode.
Yeah, it certainly has been. There's a lot to tuck into today. A lot of things around BSV that we want to push out there and obviously explain a little bit more detail and really kind of just clear up some of the mess that's out there. There's not really a lot of clarity around this at the moment, and hopefully we can provide a little bit more to that. So yeah, as always, guys, please do your own due diligence before getting involved in any new investment, and also please do not misconstrue this as investment advice. So yeah, let's kick off, Antonio. Let's start with Binance. I think it's a good place to start, as this is kind of where the trickle effect has started from, and then we can discuss the ramifications of the ripple effect afterwards and what's going to kind of play out from that point. That sound good to you?
Sounds good to me.
Perfect. So Binance, about 2 weeks ago, turned around and said that they were thinking about delisting cryptocurrency such as BSV. When they did so, they were saying that really the reason behind this was due to the fact that they weren't happy with the way that Dr. Craig Wright and his kind of camp were conducting themselves. And yeah, it's been an interesting one to see how this has played out. So on Monday, we finally received the news that actually they were going to be delisting BSV on Binance. And after that, roughly between 24 and 48 hours afterwards, we'd seen round about 20% of the price wiped off. Very concerning, I think.
Yeah, 100% agree. And the way that these exchanges are orchestrating themselves at the moment is very borderline, whether it's legal or illegal. To take this into context, so you've got 3 exchanges at the moment, and from what we've been researching, there are whispers that others may do the same. But you have 3 major exchanges at the moment that are being very bullish in the sense of delisting BSV. You have Binance, you have Kraken, and you have Shapeshift. I would say Kraken, probably out of all of them, is being the most aggressive. And we know that Kraken has, we know that Roger Ver has a lot of influence at Kraken.
Yeah, I think the thing that also we should mention at this point is that there is a very small amount of volume going through Kraken at this moment in time in relation to BSV as well. So when we look at this whole kind of scenario, it's who's dropping it and who makes the biggest effect.
Yeah.
I believe that Binance, for example, and don't quote me on this, it's rough figures, is around 12% of the volumes that are actually traded through BSV at this present time. So yeah, it's interesting to see how this is going to start affecting the market and what's going to happen from this point forward. So yeah, what I wanted to do now really was just go through what exactly Binance do in terms of their way that they look about delisting a coin and what ways and kind of scrutinies that they do as they do this. So one of the, well, I say one, let's go through several. Commitment of the team to project, level and quality of development activity, network smart contract stability, level of public communication, responsiveness to our periodic due diligence requests, evidence of unethical/fraudulent conduct, just to name a few. There's quite a few more there. Now, I don't want to sit here and start, bashing either side of either camps, but one thing I do think is very unfair is to take these kind of scrutiny measures and use this against BSV. I don't really feel is a fair metric, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, with BSV, because we know that N-Chain are doing the majority of development work and a few other development teams as well behind BSV. N-Chain are probably one of the most well-funded companies within this space. So we know their development team is extremely large, a lot larger than a lot of the coins that they currently have listed on that exchange and actually float in decent volume for it as well. So that debunks a lot of the ramifications on why they're saying that they have delisted BSV.
Yeah, and if we look at, for example, as we discussed in a previous episode about patents, right? They've got huge amount of patents that are out there now. They're either got enacted or kind of on the process around 650 and above, and they want to try and get many, many more in by the end of this year. Now, this to me doesn't sound like a company that's not really updating and not developing and not pushing forward. This sounds like a company that's at the forefront of a race, which is going to be about IP protection, about making sure that they secure their brand, securing obviously the technology that was created by Dr. Craig Wright, in our opinion. So I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And just to jump back to my previous point when I was mentioning the 3 different exchanges, of course, Kraken, Binance, and also Shapeshift.
Yep.
Now, what Kraken have done is pretty much illegal, and I'm pretty sure that the US authorities will have something to say about it, because what they have done is, let's say, for example, I had my BSV tokens in Kraken at the moment. all of a sudden then turned around and completely suspended withdrawals. So if I'm a customer holding my BSV tokens in Kraken, the only thing I can potentially do is sell my tokens. Sell my tokens, put it into something else, and then do a withdrawal. And if I wanted to buy back the tokens elsewhere, then do so. But they are forcing people to sell their tokens. And if you look at this in the sense of agendas, so those three exchanges, why are they actually doing this at the moment? Because it does seem very much like a coup scenario. It all happened within a very small amount of time, and it happened quickly. So why are they being so aggressive and trying to get BSV delisted? Especially when Craig currently is going through the legal process to prove that he is Satoshi. And it's actually quite smart what he's been doing. He's baited a lot of these top cryptocurrency names that are out there by hitting them with lawsuits for pretty much creating the narrative of fake Toshi behind Craig Wright's name. So he's fired out lawsuits, and during these lawsuits, because in a legal battle, you need two individuals, you need person to person. That is how a legal battle commences. Now, how Craig actually proves he is really Satoshi, he can't do it by just signing a transaction, because we sort of created a...
Time for analogy time.
Yeah.
Car keys are coming out.
Yep. So if I'm walking down the road and effectively I drop my car keys, I still own that car. Someone else walking behind me he can pick it up, walk to the car, operate the car. The car doesn't belong to him. I still can call the police and say, look, my car's missing. Can you find it for me, please? And they will do so, and they'll return it to me as long as they can find it. So just because Craig signs a transaction and he uses those keys doesn't mean that he is Satoshi. It just means that he has access to those keys. And as soon as he signs, it's all negatives for him. And then effectively, you're going to have everyone then come out and say, you stole the keys from Kleiman. So the legal way is the only way to go about it. And talking about the pattern scenario as well, and I know you've been doing a lot into researching what patterns are all about.
Been a lot of reading, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of them. But what you need to take into account is that there's 4,000 plus different cryptocurrencies out there at the moment. They all derive from the original source that has an open source code, and that is Bitcoin. So as soon as Craig starts enforcing these patterns, it instantly means that there's going to be a lot of cryptocurrencies that are shutting down. And business models like these exchanges that are trading security tokens all the time, guess what's going to happen to them?
I think it's quite an obvious one there. I think the other thing that's interesting is the way that Binance went about this. So for me, I felt like it was quite a good game theory that they went about. So what they did at the back end of 2018 was create a new initiative to really onboard as many corporate partners as possible, right? And when I say corporate partners, I don't mean in a sense where they're, for example, buying into Binance as a brand or as a company. What I mean is that they're trying to onboard as many institutional customers as possible. Reason behind this is because it stabilizes their business model as a whole. When they stabilize their business model, they also improve the value of their company because they realize they have repeat custom coming from large institutions that are out there. Now, what also comes from this is the fact that they can throw their weight around when they want to do something like delisting, say BSV or any other coin or altcoin that's out there. What they can then do is have a roundtable discussion with the people that are using their services, bearing in mind they've agreed rates, they've tried to do beneficial things for them, they've got them on their side, then they can then push their narrative down the way that they want to. And I think this is where it's got very, very interesting, because if we look, for example, into places like Shapeshift, like, for example, Kraken, I think there's a definite connection there.
Yeah.
So now I think it's quite nice to go into really what the ripple effects are, what a BSV actually going to do about this. And I know that you're very au fait with what Float SV have been talking about. So yeah, let's crack into that.
Yeah. So of course, all this news has hit out about the exchanges. Now with Float SV, they are an exchange that's currently being created, and it's pretty much going to be predominantly BSV in the crypto sense anyway. Well, anything that runs on the algorithm of SHA-256, and that's the algorithm that underpins Bitcoin. So Float SV, just to read out some points about it. By the way, if I say this name wrong, please Apologies.
There's a lot of different names in the crypto space, and some of them are quite hard to pronounce. So we'll forgive you on this one very occasion, sir.
So Jack C. Liu returns to partner with OKX to launch a Bitcoin SV-based exchange. Jack is a founder of RelayX and previous longtime senior executive and current advisor of OK Group. And he's officially partnered with OKX to launch Float SV. So a huge name and also quite a lot of influence within this space, and he has a very good CV. Now, Float SV will deliver a real asset exchange experience by committing to only list blockchains running proof of work SHA-256 and real assets such as commodities and currencies. So it's not just going to be predominantly cryptocurrency focused. They are actually adding in other functions as well. Now, this part as well, Float SV will not list native tokens of other blockchains nor securities or STOs.
Interesting, right? And this is why it's interesting to me, because what that for me is coming across like is that they're trying to corner the market at the right time. So we know at the moment, as we've discussed, all of these patents are coming out. We have all of this IP protection that they've got in place, and we know that there's going to be huge ramifications for coins which don't fall under those kind of remits, right? So as it comes into this new space, what a great time to basically set up a new exchange and do it on a basis where no one's going to have issues with you. So the SEC aren't coming after you because you're running securities. You haven't got regulators breathing down the back of your neck. You haven't got, for example, patent implications with certain projects that are going to be there. So you're going to have to delist, relist, all this weird and wonderful stuff that's in the background. It's just clean, it's complete, and this will operate and work fully going forward. Because let's be honest, right? I personally think, and I know you personally think the same, that Binance could be in serious trouble. And this is why we're seeing this pushback at the moment. And I don't know whether you want to divulge a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, so it is very much around the whole patent scenario when Craig does really start enforcing it, and he has hired lawyers to start enforcing it, so they know it's coming. So they're just very wary about their business model because they know their business model won't last. So they're pretty much just trying to kick that can down the road as much as they possibly can to, of course, make as much money as they possibly can within the time frame that they can operate within.
Yeah. Pure and simple, this is his technology, he has patented it, and anybody that's operating in a way that he's not going to like, they're going to feel the wrath of how he's going to act and what he's going to do past this point. We already know this guy is outspoken and he has no issues going into courtrooms, doing what he needs to do to protect what he has invented, in our opinion. So I think this is where it's going to get really interesting over the next couple of weeks.
And I strongly recommend everyone to keep up to date with the legal court cases that are currently going on, because we will see a lot of documentation presented from the very early days of how Bitcoin was actually created, what its original purpose was, then what it got morphed into for particular reasons. So the further you dig, the more information you're going to get. The more information that you get, the more you find out.
Yeah, and the more you can feel confident in what you're doing in this space at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Our view is that, look, if you look over the short term, things have been battered out there. And what we have to really come back to at this point, when you've been through a bear market for such a long time now, is coming back to truly what the fundamentals are. And we know that the project's going to work going forward. We're not dealing with something that's going to come under legal ramifications, that's going to have other things come out of the background. We know that we're working with a solid product. And this is the thing that is so important at this time. Go back to, say, 2017, and you could have picked any coin. And to be quite honest with you, a lot of people would have made money out of it. When it's come through this bear market, we've really started to understand that we need to be involved in the right project for the right reasons. And yes, that may go against certain people over a short period of time, but the long game is where it is very, very important. And for us, that really is along the SV route. So it's very sad to see that there's been some exchanges delist, but it's also warming to see that a lot of people are showing support, throwing up new utilities for these people to actually use. So I think this is a great opportunity to wrap up where we were. Is there anything you wanted to add before we finish?
No, I think we covered everything.
Yeah, no, I think that was a good little session. We've probably run over a little bit from our usual 10 minutes, but I think that there was a lot to cover, and I think it's good that we've done so. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please, obviously, watch us through YouTube. You can listen to us through Spotify and also iTunes. And yeah, the blog posts that we're putting through Bitstocks at the moment have been some fantastic stuff. So please, obviously, engage with that as well. Thanks for watching, guys.
And just to let you guys know as well, at the end of the month, we're going to be doing a meetup where, of course, you'll have both of us doing a presentation. So, of course, if you can, please attend that. And bar that, peace and love.